Universal grammar? Okay, briefly. I always cringe when I see these articles, Noam Chomsky debunked, because they're invariably written by these grad student conservatives that are just falling over themselves to get the slot in history that proved that fucking communist wrong. Debunking Noam Chomsky seems to mean debunking communism nowadays. And it seems to be that there's all these people that think that if they can prove that universal grammar is wrong, then capitalism wins. It's absurd, but that's, and, they're driven by this, and so they invariably miss the point. Now, of course, the idea is wrong on some level, right? It's an old idea. And as an old idea, it is tied to a previous era with a previous understanding of things. You could say that Newton was wrong, but we still use his ideas, right? But how wrong it is depends on how specific you get about it. And if you maintain a certain abstraction, it's actually somewhat of an impossible to argue with tautology. I hope you see what I did there. So if you want to get really granular and start talking about automata theory and Turing machines, you're eventually going to run out to the reality that our brain is almost certainly a nonlinear computing machine. It may not be exactly what we think of when we think of a quantum computer, although we can be certain that the chemical reactions that exist in our head need to be analyzed on a quantum level in order to be understood. So no, our brain isn't a Turing machine. We can be pretty confident in that point. That understanding of how our brain works is too simple. Okay? And it follows that the computational theory he used is poorly applied to biological processes, which means these recursive formulas can't be exactly right because our brains are a different kind of computer. So I think we can all agree that Chomsky's idea of a universal grammar is too simple. But he wrote it a long time ago, before we knew that it was too simple. So, maybe we can be a little bit reasonable here in how we analyze it, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that his ideas are wrong, it just means that they're too simple. And I would suggest that we need to generalize them, okay? One of these things that these drooling conservatives will throw at you is the observation that you can find a handful of languages scattered in distant parts of the world that don't follow the rules. You can find an indigenous tribe in the Amazon that doesn't, and it's a counterexample, so therefore communism is wrong, go buy stuff. I would suggest that a generalized theory based on some kind of quantum theory of computation would actually absorb all of these languages, right? So the fact that you found a counterexample doesn't mean that you need to throw his whole idea out the window. What it means is that maybe his idea is based on a simple theory, and because it's built on a simple theory of computation, it's not robust enough to take everything in. The fact that this counterexample exists, in somewhere deep in the African rainforest, doesn't. It still works pretty well for 99% of the languages that you're going to come across, right? Is that just a coincidence? Probably not, no. But again, our brains. See, it sounds kind of ridiculous and naive at this point in 2016 to suggest that our brains are, finite state machines or Turing machines or these kinds of very simple kinds of computers. Right? That sounds ridiculous at this point in history. It didn't when he wrote it. But if we acknowledge that it is ridiculous to think that our brains are that, can be accurately modeled with that simple of a computer, then, it's almost obvious that we're going to find a counterexample. But just as obvious that if we can, expand the theory a little bit, we're going to get something more robust that can take all of these ideas in. But in order to do that, we have to know how our brains work first, right? We can run off all of these different abstract concepts of what a computer is and then, just kind of blindly apply them and hope one sticks. But ultimately, we're going to find multiple abstract concepts of the computer that are going to fit every language eventually. Why are we just shooting darts in the dark like this, right? Rather, the wise thing to do right now is acknowledge that, okay, we don't know exactly how our brains process information yet. We know that our brains are more complicated than a Turing machine, but we don't know exactly what that means. That doesn't mean we need to throw away the idea that our brains are computers. I still think it's a good guess that our brains are pretty much the same thing as computers. But I also think that we need to leave Turing models in the past and embrace something different altogether. A more complex model. A more complex kind of computer to model our brains with. And then once you've done that, well, it's going to require a lot of observing. This is an empirical question, which is going to require a lot of technology that's designed for that observing. But once we've figured that out, once we've resolved that empirical process of what kind of computer our brains emulate most accurately, once we figure out how our brain processes information, then we can start talking about building a new theory of universal grammar within that theoretical framework. In the meantime, the realization that our brains are not Turing machines or finite state machines reduces universal grammar to its most simple formulation. There's a part of our brain that deals with language. If you take away the specific kind of computer, then that's what's left. Which is, how do you even start to argue with that, right? Of course there's a part of our brain that deals with language. Therefore communism is right. You've got nothing to lose but your chance. So let's be careful before we go Chomsky debunked. I think his idea is probably right. His idea is probably right. It's the underlying theory that he built it on that needs some work. And I don't have a good idea, because I think it's an empirical question. And I think we need to study that empirically. Okay, so it's about 3:30, and I've been up for an hour. The rainfall warning has actually moved into some flooding warnings around the area, but I haven't been outside in a few days, and I'm just looking around here, and it doesn't look like it's so bad for me. That said, I took another walk behind there last night, and it seemed okay. Apparently the flooding started this morning. I fell asleep around 6 o'clock in the morning. I didn't start the alter reality, unfortunately. I did manage to do the other things, though, so I'm pretty much caught up. Because it's going to rain for a few more days, and I'm a little bit behind on my eating, that's going to push the need to it gives me a few more grace days, right? It seems like right now I'm aiming for Monday. I'm not doing anything this weekend, right? I may go out twice next week, but this weekend I'm in. So I think I've kind of decided that it's if I go once a week, and even if it's around the weekends, it kind of gives me more of like a work during the week, play during the weekends. Even though I explicitly don't want to be. I don't want to be forced into that, but it does kind of as a suggestion, it's probably not the worst idea. I'm gonna take a walk outside. And check out the flooding. But nothing much has happened over the last few days. Nothing much is going to happen over the next couple of days. It's the same thing. This is happening slower than I wanted to. Everything happens slower than I want it to. But I do think that... yesterday was spent with the music, and I think it wasn't a short day, but I could feel... it's raining, and I've mentioned before that the rain kind of gets to me, right? It wasn't a short day, but it kind of felt like one. And I did get knocked out in the end. So what can I say? I'm up now. Let's do alter reality. I'm way behind. I've got like 3 weeks. And that's going to be the focus of the day, like almost entirely alter reality, right? But let's take a walk outside. I got rain boots, I got a rain jacket. We've seen this. Let's take a walk outside. Okay, so I am still gonna take a walk down to the river, but I need to I'm over here, right? Like pretty much right downtown. There's a tunnel that we've been through a bunch of times. There's the downtown area that I go to sometimes, and there's kind of the area I walk in, right? When I do a compost run, I walk all the way down here, right? But I live over here. The flooding is over here, right? In the Tecumseh region is really bad. The Jefferson Boulevard region is really bad. So, I mean, like, it's not very far away, right? But it seems to be a consequence of the drainage system in the region, which is designed to it's designed to keep water in the lake rather than put water into it, right? So the drainage system is designed to pump everything, keep everything that way, and it's all backing up, right? Because they got on top of it, they got like a way more rain over here for whatever reason, right? It was raining pretty hard yesterday morning, but I think it's just been drizzling here, right? So, for whatever reason, it seems like we escaped it. But I am going to walk up to the river just to see how it's swelling. This is a big, scary river. I don't want to get too close to it, but want to just kind of see, right? I suspect that I'm going to walk out the house and I'm going to kind of go up a hill. And I suspect that when I get to the top of the hill, I'm going to look down and I'm going to see that there might be some water right on the coast here. Obviously, I don't want to get too close to it, but I mean, I'm probably not going to see the kind of flooding that I'm seeing in the newspaper or on the internet, because that's all happening out over here, and I'm over here, and like I'm not going to get that'd be like a 2-hour walk, right? Well, or let's see. Yeah, it would take me about an hour to walk there, and I'm gonna walk to a flood region and take an hour. Like, if it was closer, Apparently, there's some flooding over here too. But I mean, I'm right. I'm in the middle of the city. I'm where the infrastructure is good. There's the benefit of living downtown, right? And it seems like I'm safe. Like I say, I live in a basement, and I don't know. I don't see any water around here. Let me double check in here. Bone dry. Bone dry, if you ask me. Okay, so I'm okay, but I'm gonna take a walk anyways. We'll see. Get a coffee, and I like walking in the rain. I think I mentioned that once before. So really, let's go for a walk in the rain. Rain boots. Okay, so I did a walk around through like in the basement, and I really am bone dry. I tried to look out through some windows, and it doesn't really I'm not even sure it's raining, but I don't see any puddles or anything. So I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna get a coffee. I'm gonna walk up to the river, and then I'm gonna come back. I'm not promising you anything here, but I got my I got my nice big fancy rain jacket on here. I got my rain boots. Maybe I'll get some cash for laundry, because I did get paid overnight. So maybe that'll be something useful there. I make it down to the bank machine, but otherwise I'm just going for a walk, really. So went back in to get a sweater. It's a lot better. It's a steady rain. I'm wearing lots of rain gear, but there's no doubt that my gear will be wet anyways. See, as you can see, they've made some precautions. The pump should be working. And in fact, the fact that the pump isn't working suggests to me that it's nowhere near as bad here as it is elsewhere. So, yeah, I don't see any floods yet. Like I said, I'm just gonna walk up to the river and see if I can see something there. But There's a hill directly that way. Um, so this thing is supposed to be waterproof, and I think that like this is okay. But like if I walk straight that way, I'm gonna get to a hill. I'm gonna go up the hill. I'm gonna get to the top of the hill, and when I look down the hill, I see the river. So that's probably as far as I'll go. But I'm gonna actually no. Why don't I walk right through downtown, and then go from there? It's probably the safest thing to do. I think I'm really just taking a walk in the rain. I like doing that. And, that's what I'm doing. I'm at the river and look at the smog. Holy shit. Yeah. I know that if I was to walk that way, like an hour, I'd walk into a flood zone. I'm not going to. I'm going to conclude that there's not much flooding, or there's no flooding in my area here. So that's a net positive, I guess, even if it means no footage. I'm just gonna go home actually. So that was a bust, but that's fine. Let's just get back to the alter reality. And like I say, I gotta get a good chunk of it done before I eat. So yesterday I wanted to get the shows done and then eat and then do the alter reality, but I kind of crashed after I ate. So today let's get most of the alter reality done and then eat and then go from there. I'm not done. I haven't even started. I just want to get that going now so that well, really I just more want to warm the place up a little. That would be nice. Those close, right? Yeah. I noticed when I came in that I could hear my heartbeat in my ear, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. I probably shouldn't have immediately noticed it. Like I don't ask me how I knew it was a heartbeat and not something else. It just struck me as obvious that I'm hearing a blood vessel, and I knew right away that I'm hearing my heartbeat. So I looked it up a little bit. I know enough about my medical history to know that I don't have issues with heart. I mean, if anything, I have low blood pressure. I have low cholesterol, right? So I don't think it's a heart issue. But it is consistent with the idea that I have some kind of a blockage in my ear. It's on exactly the same side, and everything's consistent, right? So I did a little bit of research into it. I tried to clear it. There's this method where you plug your nose in your mouth and you try to breathe out, and the air is supposed to go out through your eustachian tubes and eventually through your ears. It seemed to work fine on my good ear, but on the ear that I've had all the problems with, the air didn't come out, right? It got stuck, and then actually I could hear it coming back. So it's I think I need to get that. I need to see the results immediately, kind of thing. So I'm gonna go in the morning, even if it's raining, and get those patient records. I think it's absolutely imperative. Just because, I mean, it's one thing to be a little bit. See, like I said, this is escalating, right? But I mean, I think my hunch was right? I knew there was something funny on that side of my head. Let's look at my ear canal before I come up with any other kinds of conclusions. Now, I mean, it could at the end, it could still be a TMJ issue, right? It could be that my jaw's fucked, and because my jaw's fucked, my ear canal's crooked, or who knows, right? But the bottom line is that when I went to get my first MRI, they told me that there was some kind of obstruction in my ear, and that's why I went to get a second MRI. The doctor never called me back, right? So it's okay, it's not, it's a catastrophe, it's nothing, right? Didn't even get a fuck you, right? So I like I say, I'm pretty sure, I'm almost certain, okay, that what happened was the doctor said, she's not buying plastic surgery from me, so, uh, you know, so I don't know. Like I say, I know that I walked in there under the understanding that they had found something and they wanted to see a better look at it. So let's see what the result. I mean, I'm not going to call the doctor, right? Like I'm kind of fed up, right? I'm going to leapfrog that doctor, go right to the hospital, get the results, get the forms. Um, Obviously, I suppose if I don't get the result, like I mean, if I don't get enough information from the hospital, then I'll have to call the doctor. But I kind of want to avoid it. Um, so that's what I've been doing for the last, what is it, 8 o'clock? It's 8 o'clock. Last like 3 hours is messing around with my ears, and like there's no doubt in my mind that there is some blockage at this point. What exactly that blockage is, I don't know. It could be fluid from an infection. It could be a tumor. It could be wax. I don't know, right? But there's some kind of gunk or it, either a growth or either there's some kind of gunk in there or there's some kind of growth in there, or my face is just so fucking crooked. But I need to whatever it is making it so that like that's you shouldn't hear your like I say, it just struck me as obvious that okay, I'm hearing my heartbeat, which means that like I must be getting some kind of resonance from a vein or something must be crooked, or either something's crooked and my eardrum is closer to the vein than it should be, and that's why it's picking it up. Which, like, why did that happen all of a sudden today? Or there's a growth, and the growth is acting as a growth or fluid or something in there, and that's acting as a medium for the sound waves to travel through, right? It's got to be one or the other. So, um, this is a symptom. It's noticeable and it's kind of scary. So, we'll deal with that in the morning. Right now, let's get back to the ultra reality that I didn't get back to, and I should have, while I make myself some spaghetti. We're just going to do a quick end of the week polling update here. Frankly, nothing. No, really, nothing. The Fox poll gave published registers, and it actually isn't picking up any change. Like no change from the debate outside of the margins. The shift in likelies was about 2% out of the undecideds, and that's in the margins. But it's a little more convincing as a signal. Okay, so I read the Fox poll, and what do I see? I see that maybe some of the undecideds moved to Clinton. It's in the margin, about, like I say, about 2%, but normally undecideds stay fairly, when you see a shift in undecideds, that's more convincing. So what affected we only have one poll right now that's of any use. And people will point to other polls, but there's really only one that's of any use. And it's just telling us that nothing really much happened at all, except maybe a barely measurable shift from undecideds to Clinton. And while I think that you need to adjust for the Fox bias, which means, give Clinton an extra point or two, or move her out to the extremes of the margins, right? If she's at 43 plus 2, then she's probably closer to 45, right? It is pretty much what I thought, even with the adjustment. She'll get a mild boost, so even without the adjustment, it's pretty much what I thought, which is that she'll get a mild boost in the fence vote, but the fence vote was probably doing something else that night. None of the really reliable polling firms have published anything, and Fox is better than a lot of these other ones, but they're still Fox, right? And that's kind of curious to me. They've had time. I still think there hasn't been any meaningful change in the numbers since the conventions. Okay? I know the media wants to tell you, that the polling's erratic, it's all over the place, we don't know what's gonna, and I think that's bullshit, okay? My reading of the polls is that we've got a straight line since August where she's up by 5 points. In fact, even further than that, if you want to be really honest. a straight line since about May, where she's up by about 5 points. The only thing that I see that I'm willing to suggest that is maybe significant is that boost due to the terrorist attacks. When was that? In the Orlando attacks specifically? That was what was it? The end of July, I think. That said, some of the local polling is clearly breaking in her favor too. Okay, and that suggests that she's leaning more towards 5 plus than 5 minus. So she's up in Nevada all of a sudden. She's winning in Florida all of a sudden. Okay. If around 5 means 3 to 7, it's probably looking like it's closer to 7 right now. This is a deduction by looking at local polling. We don't have a lot of data right now. Okay, again, my end of the week polling update, nothing. Nothing's changed. Okay, so on second thought, I got trapped doing some editing. It was actually a productive evening, the last couple of hours of it. When did we talk last? Around 9? So yeah, watched some vlogs, cut some things up. I don't, it's fine, so, I'm gonna get something to eat now because it's late and I'm hungry. And then we'll get to the Ultra Reality afterwards. Remember, I didn't wake up today until almost 3 o'clock, so I think today's a good day, it's a good guess that today will be a day where I transfer over. Am I gonna get, am I gonna go down tomorrow, or in the morning, in a few hours, to get my scans? I'll see what I feel like. Let's see what I feel like.